And we have breaking news tonight at 10 o'clock. A heavy police presence at a Church's Fried Chicken location on Park Avenue. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Joe Birch. My colleague Joy Redmond is off this evening, but Action News 5's Imani Williams is out in this rainy night, live outside the establishment where there's a big police presence. Imani, what have you learned so far?
Hey, Joe, like you said, there is a large police presence here in Orange Mound, right at this Church's Chicken. I'm going to let you see, look behind me now. Police said that a woman was found shot and was taken to the hospital. A shooting. The police came to this Church's Chicken for a shooting call. We still don't know what really happened, what led up to the shooting, but we do know that one woman was shot.
This same girl with purple hair I just got into it with just pulled back up in the parking lot. Those were among the last words 48-year-old Anitra West spoke to her friend over the phone on July 8, 2024. Moments later, that friend heard a customer's voice screaming through the line, "I will kill you." Then Anitra yelled back, "Go to jail then." A single gunshot. Silence. Welcome back to Shadows of Crime. I'm your host, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because we dive deep into cases that expose the dark reality behind everyday encounters. What you're about to hear isn't just another workplace dispute gone wrong. This is the story of how a routine chicken order at a Memphis Church's restaurant became a mother's final moments, witnessed entirely through a phone call that captured every terrifying second. Monica Williams drove away that night thinking she'd gotten the last word, but surveillance cameras, a friend's testimony, and her own violent past were about to catch up with her in ways she never imagined. The question isn't just who killed Anitra West, it's how a simple food order escalated to murder in less than an hour, and why the warning signs were ignored for over a decade. To understand the magnitude of what was lost that night, you need to know who Anitra West really was. At 48 years old, Anitra had spent her entire life in Memphis, Tennessee. She wasn't just another face behind a fast food counter, she was a devoted mother to 12-year-old Zoe, her pride and joy. But Anitra's story goes much deeper than her role as a parent. Her relationship with ex-husband Lorenzo West tells you everything about her character. After 16 years of marriage, most divorced couples can barely stand to be in the same room. Not Anitra and Lorenzo. They maintained such mutual respect and affection that they were actually discussing rekindling their relationship just weeks before her death. Lorenzo described her as a shining light and a beautiful soul, but his most powerful tribute was this: "I'm a better man because of her." That's what will be missed the most, because everywhere she went, she impacted everybody.
I'm a better man because of her. And that's what will be missed the most, because everywhere she went, she impacted everybody.
And he meant everybody. Anitra had dedicated years to the service industry, working her way through various restaurants and businesses across Memphis. She wasn't just clocking in and out, she was mentoring younger employees, becoming a mother figure to dozens of young people who worked alongside her over the years. Her impact was so profound that when police responded to the scene of her murder, one of the officers recognized her immediately. He had worked with Anitra at a previous job and knew firsthand the kind of person she was. At Church's Texas Chicken in the Orange Mound neighborhood, Anitra was respected by colleagues and customers alike. Her positive attitude wasn't an act, it was genuine. She had this rare ability to make everyone around her feel valued, whether they were co-workers struggling through a tough shift or customers having a bad day. Lorenzo put it perfectly. She didn't do anything but speak life to people. That was Anitra's calling, lifting others up, making them better versions of themselves. But here's what makes this tragedy even more heartbreaking. Anitra was known for her ability to diffuse tense situations with kindness. She had spent years dealing with difficult customers, always finding a way to turn conflict into connection. Drop a comment below. Have you ever worked in food service? You know how tough it can be, and how rare it is to find someone like Anitra who genuinely cared about making every interaction positive. On July 8, 2024, that gift would be tested in the most unimaginable way. Monday night, July 8, 2024. Church's Texas Chicken on Park Avenue in Orange Mound was winding down from another busy day. For Anitra West, it was just another shift. Or so she thought. Around 8:30 p.m., a teal-colored compact SUV pulled into the drive-thru. Behind the wheel sat 45-year-old Monica Williams, her purple hair catching the restaurant's lights. She wasn't alone. Riding shotgun was a friend, and in the back seat, that friend's 10-year-old son. They had coupons for Church's Chicken and figured they'd grab some dinner. Simple enough, right? But from the moment Monica approached the drive-thru intercom, something felt off. She told Anitra they had 2 orders to place. The friend later told police that Monica seemed to be making things more complicated than they needed to be. As they worked through the order, confusion mounted. Monica was insisting on 2 separate orders, but the details weren't adding up. The tension in her voice was building with each exchange through that crackling drive-thru speaker. Anitra, ever the professional, tried to sort through the confusion. She'd handled thousands of complicated orders over the years. This should have been routine. But Monica's frustration was escalating rapidly, and the friend sitting next to her could feel the atmosphere in the car growing hostile. Then Monica made a decision that should have ended everything peacefully. You know what? Forget it. We don't want the food anymore. She pulled the teal SUV up to the drive-thru window where Anitra was waiting. What happened next turned a simple cancellation into something much darker. The argument that erupted wasn't just about chicken and payment. It was about respect, control, and Monica's inability to let things go. The friend in the passenger seat watched as Monica and Anitra exchanged heated words through that window. She later told investigators that while the argument was intense, nothing physical happened at that moment. Monica was angry, but she seemed to be backing down. After the confrontation, Monica drove away from Church's Chicken. The friend probably thought the worst was over. Monica dropped her and the 10-year-old boy off at their home, telling them she was going to go get some chips to go with their dinner. That friend had no idea she'd just witnessed the calm before the storm. Here's where this story takes a turn that defies logic. Monica Williams had every opportunity to go home, cool off, and forget about a minor mix-up over chicken orders. She had removed herself from the situation. She had dropped off witnesses. She was free and clear, so why did she turn around? What drives someone to circle back to a fast food restaurant after an argument that was already over? Was it wounded pride, uncontrolled rage, or something darker? A pattern of behavior that had been building for years. Monica Williams made a choice that night. She could have driven home, complained to her friend about bad customer service, maybe even left a negative review online. Instead, she made a U-turn that would destroy multiple lives forever. While Monica was making that fateful decision to return, Anitra was inside Church's Chicken, still shaken from the confrontation. Her coworkers noticed she was upset enough that she needed to step outside and get some air. She grabbed her phone and called a friend, needing someone to talk through what had just happened. As she walked toward that parking lot, still processing the bizarre encounter with the purple-haired woman in the teal SUV, she had no idea that same woman was already on her way back. The clock was ticking toward 9:16 p.m., and Monica Williams was about to make the worst decision of her life. Anitra West needed air. The confrontation at the drive-thru window had left her rattled in a way that years of difficult customers never had. There was something different about Monica Williams, something that set off every alarm bell Anitra had developed during her time in the service industry. She stepped outside into the Memphis night, pulling out her phone to call a friend. Sometimes you just need to talk through a situation that doesn't make sense. And this was one of those times. "You won't believe what just happened," Anitra told her friend through her earpiece, her voice still carrying the stress from the encounter. She began describing the bizarre argument with the customer, the confusion over orders, the sudden cancellation, and the woman's aggressive behavior at the window. Her friend listened as Anitra painted the picture. A woman with purple hair driving a teal SUV, getting unreasonably angry over what should have been a simple food order. It was the kind of story service workers share with each other. Another difficult customer, another day at the job. But as Anitra talked, something caught her attention in the parking lot. the familiar shape of a teal-colored SUV rolling back onto the church's chicken property. "Girl, this same girl with purple hair I just got into it with just pulled back up in the parking lot," Anitra told her friend, her voice shifting from frustrated to concerned. On the other end of the line, her friend could hear everything. The sound of a car door slamming, footsteps on asphalt, and then Monica Williams' voice, no longer muffled by a drive-through speaker or car window, cutting through the night air with crystal clarity. "I will kill you." The words hit Anitra's friend like a physical blow. This wasn't road rage or customer frustration anymore. This was a direct death threat. Through the phone, she could hear the raw hatred in Monica's voice, the kind of rage that goes far beyond a disagreement over chicken orders. Anitra West had faced difficult customers before, but she'd never heard anything like this. In that moment, she made a choice that would define her final seconds on Earth. She could have run back inside the restaurant. She could have begged for mercy. She could have tried to de-escalate the situation with the same kindness that had defined her entire career. Instead, Anitra West stood her ground. "Go to jail, then," she yelled back. Those 4 words, defiant, fearless, and completely in character for a woman who had spent her life standing up for what was right, even facing a death threat in a dark parking lot. Anitra refused to be intimidated. Her friend, still listening through the phone, heard those final words ring out into the Memphis night. Then came the sound that would haunt her forever. A single gunshot that shattered the silence and ended the call in the most horrific way possible. The line went dead. Anitra's friend was left holding her phone, knowing she had just witnessed a murder, but having no idea what came next. 9:16 p.m. One gunshot echoed across the church's chicken parking lot on Park Avenue. Monica Williams didn't hesitate, didn't pause to see what she had done. The teal SUV's engine roared to life as she threw it in reverse, tires squealing against asphalt. Surveillance cameras captured her vehicle speeding through the drive-through lane, the same path she had taken less than an hour earlier to place a chicken order. But this time she was fleeing a murder scene. Inside the restaurant, Anitra's co-workers heard the gunshot. In neighborhoods like Orange Mound, gunfire isn't uncommon, but something about this single shot felt different. It was too close, too isolated, too final. When they rushed outside, they found their colleague and friend lying in the parking lot, bleeding from a gunshot wound to her head. The woman who had mentored so many of them, who had always been there with encouragement and support, was now fighting for her life on the cold pavement. The 911 call went out immediately. Memphis police and paramedics raced toward Church's Chicken, but everyone who saw Anitra knew this was bad. Head wounds from close-range gunshots don't leave much room for hope. Paramedics worked frantically to stabilize her as they loaded her into the ambulance. Regional 1 hospital was just minutes away. If there was any chance of saving Anitra West, it would happen there. The emergency room team at Regional 1 had seen countless gunshot victims, but they also knew the statistics. When someone takes a bullet to the head at close range, survival rates plummet. Still, they fought for Anitra with everything they had. For 25 agonizing minutes, doctors and nurses battled to keep her alive. Her ex-husband Lorenzo would later say that those 25 minutes felt like a lifetime, knowing she was fighting, hoping against hope, that somehow she would pull through. At 9:41 p.m., just 25 minutes after Monica Williams pulled that trigger, Anitra West was pronounced dead. Mother was gone. A daughter had lost her parent. An ex-husband had lost the woman he still loved. Co-workers had lost their mentor. The Memphis community had lost someone who made everyone around her better. What's your theory on what really drove Monica to this extreme? Was it uncontrolled rage, a sense of entitlement, or something deeper? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because understanding this mindset might be the key to preventing the next tragedy. Within hours of Anitra West's murder, Memphis Police Department investigators knew they had a solid case. if they could find their suspect. The church's chicken surveillance system had captured everything. Multiple camera angles showed the teal SUV's arrival, the initial drive-through interaction, Monica Williams leaving the property, and most crucially, her return. The footage was crystal clear. Williams pulling back into the parking lot, the confrontation with Anitra, and the SUV speeding away immediately after the gunshot. But having footage and having a suspect are two different things. The license plate wasn't clearly visible in all the angles, and Monica Williams was just another face in a city of over 650,000 people. Detective work in 2024 looks different than it did even a decade ago. MPD made a strategic decision that would prove brilliant. They released clear photos of Monica Williams and her distinctive teal SUV on the department's Facebook page. The post went viral within hours. Memphis residents shared it thousands of times, and social media sleuths immediately went to work. Facebook users began analyzing every detail: the SUV's make and model, Williams' clothing, even her distinctive purple hair. Comment sections filled with theories, potential identifications, and tips. But it wasn't anonymous internet detectives who cracked the case. It was someone much closer to Monica Williams than she ever imagined. The woman who had been riding in Monica's passenger seat that night was scrolling through Facebook when she saw the MPD post. The photos hit her like a physical blow. There was no mistaking her friend Monica Williams staring back at her from a murder investigation. This woman faced an impossible choice. Monica was her friend, someone she trusted enough to ride with to get dinner. But she had also been in that car during the initial confrontation. She had witnessed Monica's rage firsthand, and now she was looking at evidence that her friend had returned to kill someone. The moral weight of what she knew became unbearable. She picked up her phone and called Memphis police. "I think the woman you're looking for is my friend," she told investigators. "And I was with her that night." Within hours, police were at her doorstep. And what they found there was almost too convenient to believe. Monica Williams' teal SUV was parked right outside in the driveway. The friend's statement to police painted a detailed picture of July 8th that investigators could never have reconstructed on their own. She explained how Monica had asked if she and her 10-year-old son wanted to get dinner around 8:30 p.m. They had church's chicken coupons, so the choice seemed obvious. She described sitting in the passenger seat as Monica became increasingly agitated during the ordering process. The confusion over 2 orders versus 1, Monica's growing frustration with Anitra, and the decision to cancel everything and leave. But here's where her account becomes crucial. She confirmed that Monica dropped her and her son off at home before returning to church's chicken. This wasn't a crime of passion that happened in the heat of the moment. Monica had time to think, time to cool down, time to make a different choice. Instead, Monica told them she was going to go get some chips to go with their dinner and drove away. The friend told investigators that Monica returned to her house sometime between 11 p.m. and midnight, roughly 2 hours after the murder. But Monica didn't come back in her teal SUV. She arrived with someone else, quickly packed an overnight bag, and left again without her car. "I wasn't surprised to see her car outside the next day," the friend explained to police, because she was seeing someone and leaving with them in the evenings. This detail reveals something chilling about Monica's mindset after the murder. She wasn't panicking, wasn't acting like someone who had just committed an impulsive crime. She was methodical enough to arrange alternative transportation and pack a bag, suggesting she knew exactly what she had done and was already planning her next moves. The friend's final statement to investigators was perhaps the most damning. She said she woke up the next morning, saw the news coverage of Anitra's murder, and immediately recognized the photos of Monica and her car. She knew her friend was a killer, and she made the right choice. With Monica's vehicle secured as evidence and a detailed witness account of the entire evening, MPD had everything they needed. Now they just had to find Monica Williams herself. As Memphis police built their case against Monica Williams, a disturbing pattern emerged from her criminal background, one that should have served as a warning for what happened on July 8, 2024. 15 years earlier, in 2009, Monica Williams had already demonstrated her capacity for shocking violence. The victim that time was a pregnant woman, And the details of that attack reveal a level of brutality that goes far beyond typical criminal behavior. According to court records, Monica Williams approached the pregnant woman with a butcher knife. Her target wasn't random. She deliberately aimed for the woman's stomach, attempting to harm both mother and unborn child in the most horrific way imaginable. Think about the psychology behind that choice. Monica didn't just want to hurt this woman. She wanted to destroy her future, to kill an innocent child who had never done anything to anyone. The pregnant victim's only salvation came from her own quick thinking and maternal instincts. She turned her body at the last second, taking the knife blade in her back instead of her stomach. But Monica Williams wasn't finished. Even after stabbing the pregnant woman, even after seeing her victim bleeding and in agony, Monica's rage hadn't been satisfied. She grabbed a tree branch, not a small stick, but a substantial piece of wood, and began beating the wounded woman. The blows landed on her head, her neck, her stomach. This wasn't a single moment of lost control. This was sustained, methodical violence against someone who was already injured, already helpless, already carrying a child. Monica Williams beat a pregnant woman with a tree branch while she was bleeding from a stab wound. The parallels to Anitra West's murder are impossible to ignore. In both cases, Monica escalated minor conflicts into life-threatening violence. In both cases, she showed no mercy once the violence began. In both cases, she demonstrated a complete disregard for human life. But here's what makes this pattern even more disturbing. The justice system's response to Monica's 2009 attack was woefully inadequate. Despite attempting to murder a pregnant woman and her unborn child, despite the sustained brutality of the assault, despite the clear evidence of Monica's dangerous nature, she was convicted of aggravated assault, not attempted murder. Her sentence? 3 years in prison. 3 years for trying to kill a pregnant woman and her baby. 3 years for stabbing someone in the back. 3 years for beating a bleeding victim with a tree branch. Monica Williams was back on the streets by 2012, free to continue the pattern of violence that would eventually claim Anitra West's life. This raises uncomfortable questions about how our justice system handles violent offenders. What does it take for someone to be recognized as a genuine threat to public safety? How many warning signs need to be documented before meaningful intervention occurs? The psychological profile that emerges from Monica's history is deeply troubling. She doesn't just lose her temper, she escalates conflicts to deadly extremes. She doesn't just lash out in anger, she continues attacking even after her victims are helpless. She doesn't show remorse or restraint, she shows a calculated willingness to destroy lives over perceived slights. In 2009, it was whatever minor dispute led to the pregnant woman's attack. In 2024, it was confusion over a chicken order. The triggers were different, but the response was identical. Extreme, sustained violence against innocent people. Mental health professionals who study violent behavior patterns would recognize Monica Williams as a textbook case of someone who should never have been released back into society without intensive intervention. Her inability to control rage, her escalation of minor conflicts, and her complete disregard for human life created a ticking time bomb. That bomb finally exploded in a church's chicken parking lot, taking the life of a devoted mother who was just trying to do her job. The system failed Anitra West long before Monica Williams pulled that trigger. For 7 days after murdering Anitra West, Monica Williams was a fugitive. Memphis police had her photo plastered across social media, her car was in evidence lockup, and her own friend had identified her to investigators. The net was closing fast. On July 15, 2024, exactly 1 week after she pulled that trigger, Monica Williams made a decision that surprised no one who understood her pattern of behavior. She turned herself in to Memphis police. This wasn't an act of remorse or conscience. Monica had spent a week on the run, staying with someone else, avoiding her own vehicle and watching her face spread across every news outlet in Memphis. She knew capture was inevitable. The charges came down immediately. First-degree murder, In Tennessee, that carries the possibility of life in prison without parole, or even the death penalty. This wasn't manslaughter or second-degree murder. Prosecutors looked at the evidence and saw premeditation. Monica had left the scene, dropped off witnesses, and made a conscious choice to return with deadly intent. The judge's decision on bond was swift and decisive. Monica Williams would be held without bond. She posed too great a risk to public safety, and her history of violence made her a flight risk, despite turning herself in. But the legal process was just beginning. A grand jury reviewed the evidence, the surveillance footage, witness statements, Monica's criminal history, and the friend's detailed account of that night. Their decision was unanimous. Monica Williams would face trial for first-degree murder. The community reaction was immediate and powerful. Memphis residents who had never heard of Anitra West before her death were now sharing her story, demanding justice, and questioning how someone with Monica's violent history had been free to kill. Lorenzo West, still processing the loss of his ex-wife and the mother of his child, spoke to reporters with remarkable grace. "I hope she makes peace and asks God for forgiveness," he said. "That's all I can hope for. We are not real big at punishing people down here because there's a lot of people walking around with murder charges taking care of their family every day." His focus remained on his 12-year-old daughter Zoe and helping their family heal. "We are just trying to tend to my daughter Zoe and mend fences and families, and trying to love each other," he explained. The legal proceedings would continue, but for the West family, no verdict could bring back the woman who had made everyone around her a better person. Monica Williams sat in jail without bond, awaiting a trial that would determine whether she would ever walk free again. The ripple effects of Anitra West's murder spread far beyond that church's chicken parking lot, touching lives across Memphis and leaving a 12-year-old girl without her mother. Zoe West was just starting 7th grade when her world collapsed. At an age when most kids are worried about homework and friendships, she was suddenly navigating grief that no child should ever experience. Her mother, the woman who had worked multiple jobs to provide for her, who had been her constant source of love and support, was gone forever because of a stranger's rage over chicken. Lorenzo West found himself facing an impossible task, helping his daughter process this tragedy while dealing with his own devastating loss. Despite their divorce, Anitra had remained central to his life and his sense of purpose. "I'm a better man because of her," he told reporters, his voice breaking with emotion. "She made me want to be better, even after we weren't together anymore. She was still the mother of my child, and she was still someone I loved." The impact on Lorenzo went beyond personal grief. He was now a single father to a traumatized 12-year-old trying to fill a void that could never truly be filled. The financial burden was immediate: funeral expenses, counseling for Zoe, and the loss of Anitra's income all hit the family simultaneously. The church's chicken location on Park Avenue temporarily closed its doors following the murder. Employees who had worked alongside Anitra couldn't bear to return to the scene where their friend and mentor had been killed. The corporate office made the decision to give staff time to grieve and process the trauma they had witnessed, but Memphis showed up for the West family in ways that restored faith in humanity. A GoFundMe campaign launched by friends and community members quickly raised thousands of dollars to help with funeral expenses and Zoe's ongoing needs. Donations poured in from people who had never met Anitra, but were moved by her story and outraged by the senseless nature of her death. Local churches organized meal trains for the family. Zoe's school provided counseling resources. Neighbors who barely knew the Wests before July 8th became pillars of support, checking in regularly and offering whatever help they could provide. The Memphis community had lost more than just another resident. They had lost someone who represented the best of what people could be. Anitra's co-workers, customers, and everyone who knew her spoke of the same qualities: kindness, dedication, and an ability to make others feel valued. Her death became a rallying cry for a city tired of senseless violence, and her memory became a reminder of what was worth protecting. Anitra West's murder exposes critical gaps in how we protect service workers and monitor violent offenders in our communities. Service industry employees face daily harassment and threats, yet most workplaces lack proper safety protocols. Drive-through workers need panic buttons, security cameras with clear audio, and immediate access to management during confrontations. De-escalation training should be mandatory, teaching employees when to prioritize safety over customer service. Monica Williams' case reveals a broken system that released a woman who stabbed a pregnant woman after just 3 years. Repeat violent offenders need intensive monitoring and intervention, not early release back into society. Anitra's legacy should be protecting others like her, hardworking people just trying to make an honest living. Her death proves how one person's uncontrolled rage can destroy multiple lives forever. A 12-year-old girl lost her mother, a man lost his co-parent, and a community lost someone who made everyone around her better. The question isn't whether we can prevent every tragedy. It's whether we're willing to try. Anitra West should be alive today. She should be helping her daughter Zoe navigate 8th grade, working her shifts at Church's Chicken, and continuing to make everyone around her a better person. Instead, she's gone because our society failed to protect her from someone who should never have been free to kill. Monica Williams sits in jail awaiting trial, but no verdict will bring back the woman who died over a chicken order mix-up. No sentence will undo the trauma inflicted on a 12-year-old girl who lost her mother to senseless violence. But Anitra's story doesn't have to end with her death. We can honor her memory by demanding better protection for service workers, better monitoring of violent offenders, and better systems that prioritize human life over convenience. The West family continues their healing journey, supported by a Memphis community that refuses to let Anitra be forgotten. Zoe is getting the counseling and support she needs, while Lorenzo works to keep his ex-wife's memory alive for their daughter. Subscribe if this case opened your eyes to the daily struggles service workers face. Share this video to spread awareness about workplace violence. What changes do you think need to happen to protect people like Anitra? Comment below and let's start a conversation that could save lives, because every service worker deserves to go home safely at the end of their shift.